All right, welcome back to this explainer. I am so incredibly excited to have you here today because we are diving headfirst into one of the most misunderstood, frankly, dangerous, yet totally medically vital plants on Earth. We're going to unpack the wild pharmacology of Datura and its active components, the tropane alkaloids. Seriously, get ready, because this is going to completely change how you think about memory, medicine, and, well, the very fragile nature of reality itself. Think about this central paradox for a second. How exactly does one single plant possess the power to induce this terrifying total amnesia, but also provide the exact active molecule that you might literally have tucked safely behind your ear right now to prevent motion sickness on a boat? Right? On one hand, we've got a notorious weed that historically erases memory and completely replaces reality. But on the other hand, it's a highly precise FDA-approved medicine. How can both of those things be true? Section 1, deliriants are not psychedelics. Okay, let's dive into this by clarifying exactly what kind of experience Datura actually produces, because there is a massive misconception out there. So when we talk about classic psychedelics, psilocybin or LSD, or even dissociatives like ketamine, there's this fundamental rule: insight is typically retained. Basically, the user's perception might be wildly distorted, sure, but some part of their brain still knows, hey, I'm under the influence of a substance. They can observe those distortions. Datura, though, belongs in its own totally distinct category, deliriants. With deliriants, that thread of insight is just completely severed. Reality isn't just distorted, it's entirely replaced. The user has absolutely no idea they're intoxicated. And to make it even worse, the experience is coupled with dense amnesia. And that perfectly captures the chilling reality of the delirium state. Users are out there routinely interacting with phantom elements. We're talking about medical reports of individuals having complete, articulate conversations with friends who literally aren't even in the room, or trying to smoke cigarettes that just don't exist. So the crucial takeaway here is that this is definitely not about expanding consciousness. It's a profound state of clinical delirium, followed by severe, dense, anterograde amnesia. Basically, the brain just stops recording new memories. Users frequently wake up remembering absolutely nothing of the terror they just went through. Section 2, switching off acetylcholine. Which obviously brings us to the big question: how on earth does mere plant chemistry pull off this total reality replacement and memory wipe? Let's get into the underlying neuroscience. Okay, so the secret lies in your muscarinic receptors. See, your brain relies heavily on a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine to function. Acetylcholine binds to these muscarinic receptors, which are numbered M1 through M5. They're G-protein coupled receptors, and they are absolutely crucial for things like attention, filtering our perception, and encoding memories. Now, Datura contains tropane alkaloids, primarily scopolamine and atropine. Because these specific molecules are fat-soluble, they just easily slip right across the blood-brain barrier. And once they're inside your brain, they act as competitive antagonists. They literally just park themselves in the receptor pockets and completely block acetylcholine from doing its job. The best way to think about it is like this. Acetylcholine is essentially the brain's save button. When those central M1 receptors in your cortex and your hippocampus are blocked by Datura's alkaloids, your brain can still act, right? It can still wander around, it can still talk to phantom friends, but it literally cannot press save. It cannot record those new memories. That's exactly why the amnesia is so incredibly dense. But let's look at how this builds into a physical cascade in the rest of the body. Because trust me, the brain isn't the only thing shutting down here. To quickly recognize this massive systemic shutdown, emergency medicine doctors actually memorize this classic, catchy rhyme for the anticholinergic toxidrome. Because the peripheral muscarinic receptors in your body are getting blocked too, the physical symptoms are undeniable. Ready? It goes like this. You're blind as a bat because the pupils dilate wide open and just can't focus. Mad as a hatter from that central delirium we were just talking about. Red as a beet from intensely flushed skin. Hot as a hair because you literally stop sweating, which pushes you into a highly dangerous state of hyperthermia. Dry as a bone due to blocked saliva and tears. Bowel and bladder lose their tone as your whole digestive system halts. And finally, the heart runs alone, resulting in severe tachycardia, meaning a dangerously racing heartbeat. It is a total, massive, systemic shutdown. Section 3, the memory machine. Now here is where this whole story takes a super fascinating turn, because this exact terrifying poisoning mechanism, it actually became the golden key to understanding memory and dementia. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer duality of neuropharmacology. So on one side, we have scopolamine from Datura. Because it so incredibly reliably blocks acetylcholine and halts memory formation, scientists suddenly realized, hey, we can use this to create a temporary, completely reversible model of human amnesia in the lab. It perfectly mimics dementia. And this huge realization actually helped form the cholinergic hypothesis of Alzheimer's disease. Then, on the flip side, we see the medical response. If blocking acetylcholine causes dementia-like symptoms, well, raising it should treat them, right? And that is exactly how frontline Alzheimer's medications like donepezil work. They are the literal pharmacological mirror image of Datura. And the research hasn't stopped there. Just recently, in 2024, the FDA approved Cobenfy for schizophrenia. This drug is a muscarinic M1 and M4 agonist, meaning it actively stimulates the exact same receptors that Datura blocks, and doing that yields these amazing procognitive and antipsychotic effects. So Datura essentially serves as the ultimate negative control for an entire branch of neuropharmacology. It showed us exactly what happens when the system breaks, which in turn taught us how to fix it. Section 4, Poisons and Prescriptions. So let's shift gears a bit and look at the real-world application today. How do we actually safely manage these powerful molecules? Well, it all comes down to the razor-thin line between a fatal toxin and a daily medicine. Now, what's really interesting about this contrast is the sheer difference in control. On one side, we have the unregulated wild plant. Its alkaloid content swings wildly based on the season, the soil, even the specific leaf you pick. The margin of error is terrifyingly narrow. The dose required to produce hallucinations sits perilously close to the dose that causes fatal hyperthermia or seizures. There's just no way to know. But on the other side, we have the FDA-approved medicine. By purifying those exact same alkaloids and delivering them in precise, heavily controlled microdoses, we can actually harness their power safely. And dialing down acetylcholine with that kind of precision gives us some absolutely astonishing, life-saving medical uses. A tiny, steady trickle of scopolamine in a transdermal patch prevents motion sickness and post-operative nausea just by calming the vomiting center in the brain. Then you've got atropine, which is a frontline emergency drug used to jumpstart a dangerously slow heart, severe bradycardia. It is literally the antidote for deadly organophosphate and nerve agent poisoning, which cause a massive excess of acetylcholine. And remarkably, at a super low 0.01% concentration, eye drops of atropine are now a mainstay for slowing down childhood myopia. It's just wild. Now, of course, we do have to address the shadows here too. You might have actually heard of scopolamine referred to as devil's breath or burundanga, famously associated with robberies in Colombia. Criminals exploit that exact dense memory-wiping property we discussed to make victims compliant and totally amnesic. Now, while the sensational internet myths of blowing powder in someone's face for instant mind control are largely exaggerated, the reality of spiked drinks is a very documented danger. In the clinical world, there were also these highly publicized trials looking at intravenous scopolamine as a rapid-acting antidepressant, kind of similar to ketamine. However, recent rigorous trials were actually stopped for futility, leaving this as a very contested, frankly unproven signal in the medical community. Which kind of brings us to this bizarre legal mismatch. In the United States, Datura and its tree cousin, Brugmansia, are mostly unregulated. You can legally go buy them at a garden center right now and grow these highly toxic deliriants right in your front yard. Yet if you want the purified, life-saving alkaloids, like the scopolamine patch or an atropine syringe, you absolutely need a doctor's prescription. The incredibly dangerous weed is completely free to grow, while the precise medicine is strictly controlled. Pretty crazy, right? So, after exploring the incredible neuroscience of these tropane alkaloids, I really want to leave you with this question. Is there actually a fundamental line between a poison and a medicine, or is it merely a matter of dosage, delivery, and human understanding? Datura blocks the very M1 receptors in the cortex and hippocampus that allow us to form memories, creating a literal living nightmare. Yet that exact same mechanism laid the foundation for Alzheimer's treatments and keeps our stomachs calm on the ocean. It's just a brilliant reminder of the sheer power of neuropharmacology. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking questions, keep studying, and I will see you in the next one.